I sat at my kitchen table in my Toronto condo, the one with the view of Lake Ontario that I'd worked 30 years to afford, and made the calls. First to the bank, then to the investment firm. By the time I hung up, I had transferred every dollar from our joint savings account into a new one, only my name on it. Then I called and canceled the supplementary credit card I'd given my son 5 years ago, the one that was supposed to be for emergencies only. It was 3 weeks before my daughter-in-law Sienna's 30th birthday, and my son Derek had been talking non-stop about the Audi Q7 he was planning to surprise her with. An $85,000 car. Paid for with my money. He just didn't know yet that the money was gone. Let me back up. I need you to understand how we got here, because I didn't make this decision lightly. I'm 63 years old, and I raised Derek on my own after his father walked out when he was 7. I worked as a nurse at Toronto General Hospital for 3 decades, double shifts, holidays, weekends to give my son a comfortable life. Not extravagant, but comfortable. He never wanted for anything important. Maybe that was my first mistake. Derek is 32 now. He works as a marketing coordinator, decent job, decent salary of about $70,000 a year. He met Sienna 6 years ago at some corporate event in downtown Toronto. She came from money. Real money. Her father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across Ontario, and her mother hadn't worked a day in her life. Sienna grew up in a mansion in Forest Hill, went to private school, summered in Muskoka, winters in Whistler. I knew from the start that Derek would struggle to keep up with her lifestyle expectations, but he was in love, and I was happy he'd found someone. When they got engaged after 2 years of dating, I thought maybe she'd adjust to a more modest life. I was wrong. The wedding should have been my warning sign. Sienna's parents paid for most of it, a $150,000 affair at the Royal York Hotel, 300 guests, ice sculptures, a torn-in-piece orchestra. Derek insisted on contributing something significant to prove he could provide for his wife. He didn't have the money, so I gave him $20,000. I told myself it was a one-time thing, a wedding gift. But it wasn't one time. After the wedding, they moved into a condo in Liberty Village, $3,500 a month, way above what Derek could comfortably afford on his salary. Sienna worked part-time as a wellness consultant, which seemed to involve posting on Instagram about yoga and selling supplements to her friends. She made maybe $15,000 a year. Combined, they brought in about $85,000 annually, but they lived like they made 3 times that. 6 months after the wedding, Derek called me from a furniture store. "Mom, we found the perfect sectional for the living room. It's only $8,000, but we're a bit short this month. Could you help us out? I'll pay you back." I helped. And he didn't pay me back. Then it was a trip to Turks and Caicos because Sienna needed a break, $4,000. Then a new bedroom set because their old one didn't match the aesthetic Sienna wanted, $6,000. Then Sienna's birthday, Derek took her to Canoe Restaurant and bought her a Cartier bracelet, $3,000 for dinner and jewelry. He called me crying the next day because his credit card was maxed out and he couldn't make the minimum payment. I cleared his credit card debt, $12,000. And I made what I now know was my biggest mistake. I added Derek as an authorized user on my Visa card. For emergencies only, I told him. The credit limit was $25,000. I figured it would give him a safety net without enabling him too much. I was so naive. At first, the charges were reasonable. Groceries, gas, a car repair, things I could justify as legitimate needs. Then I started noticing other things. $200 dinners at restaurants in Yorkville. $800 shopping sprees at Holt Renfrew. A weekend at the Ritz-Carlton in Montreal, $3,500. Every time I brought it up, Derek had an excuse. Sienna had a rough week at work, I wanted to cheer her up. Or, her parents were in town, I couldn't let them pay for everything. Or, my personal favorite, Mom, we're building a life together. These are investments in our relationship. I wanted to believe him. He was my son, my only child. And Sienna was always sweet to me, at least to my face. She called me Mom, hugged me at family dinners, posted photos of us together on her Instagram with captions like, "Blessed with the best mother-in-law." But there was always something in her eyes that didn't match her smile, something calculating. The real turning point came last Christmas. We'd established a tradition of spending Christmas Day at my condo. I'm not a fancy cook, but I make a good turkey dinner, and I always put thought into my gifts. That year, I'd noticed Derek mentioning that Sienna wanted a new coffee machine, one of those expensive espresso makers. I did my research, read reviews, and bought her a Breville Barista Pro. It cost me $600, which was more than I'd usually spend, but I wanted to get her something she'd actually wanted. Christmas morning, they arrived late. Sienna was on her phone the entire time I served appetizers. During dinner, she barely touched her food, saying she was doing a cleanse. Fine, people have dietary restrictions. But when it came time to exchange gifts, that's when everything became crystal clear. Sienna's parents had sent over a huge pile of gifts the day before they were spending Christmas in Barbados at their vacation home. Each gift was wrapped in expensive paper with elaborate bows. One by one, Sienna opened them. A Burberry trench coat, a Louis Vuitton handbag, a pair of Christian Louboutin heels, an iPad Pro, diamond earrings. Every time she opened something, she squealed and showed it to Derek, who oohed and ahed appreciatively. Then she got to my gift. I'd wrapped it carefully, added a handmade tag. She opened it without much enthusiasm, looked at the box. Oh, a coffee maker. That's practical. She set it aside without a second glance. I felt my face flush, but I tried to brush it off. It's the one you mentioned wanting, I said. Derek told me you'd been looking at espresso machines. Did I? She glanced at Derek, then back at me with that smile that never reached her eyes. That's sweet of you, Mom. Thanks. That was it. No more acknowledgement. She moved on to the next gift from her parents, a weekend spa package in Niagara-on-the-Lake, worth at least $1,500. After dinner, I was cleaning up in the kitchen when I heard Sienna talking to Derek in the living room. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but my condo isn't that big. Babe, we need to have a conversation about gift expectations, Sienna said. I don't want to be rude, but your mom's gifts are they're sweet, but they're not really our style, you know? My hands froze in the dishwater. She tries, Derek said quietly. She doesn't have the budget your parents do. I know. I'm not saying she should spend what they spend, but maybe just, I don't know, gift cards? Cash? Something we can actually use toward things we want? Sienna. She spent $600 on that coffee maker, which we didn't need. I wanted the La Marzocco, not some mid-range Breville. That's like $3,000. If she can't afford the real thing, she shouldn't bother trying. I gripped the edge of the sink. My vision blurred. That's harsh, Derek said, but his voice was weak. He wasn't defending me. Not really. I'm just being honest. And honestly, Derek, we need to talk about our finances. My birthday is coming up in March, and you know what I want. The Audi, Derek said. The Q7, white with the black interior. Fully loaded. I've had my eye on it for months. Sienna, that's $85,000. We can't afford. Your mom can. Silence. My heart pounded so hard I thought they might hear it from the other room. I can't ask my mom for that much money, Derek finally said. You don't have to ask. You have her credit card. Just make the down payment. We can figure out the monthly payments. Or tell her it's for something else. Say we need it for, I don't know, medical bills? Doesn't she have that joint savings account with you? For emergencies? That's her retirement money, Sienna. And we're her family. What's she going to do with all that money? She lives in a tiny condo, works part-time, barely goes anywhere. She'd want you to be happy. She'd want me to be happy. Besides, my birthday only comes once a year. I'll think about it, Derek said. I stood in that kitchen, my hands still in the cold, soapy water, and something inside me broke, or maybe it crystallized. Maybe for the first time in 5 years, I saw the situation with perfect clarity. They weren't struggling. They were choosing to live beyond their means and expecting me to fund the gap. Sienna wasn't sweet or appreciative. She was entitled and manipulative. And Derek wasn't the loving son I'd raised. He'd become weak, willing to lie to his own mother to satisfy his wife's demands. I didn't confront them that night. I smiled, hugged them goodbye, told them I loved them. But after they left, I sat at my kitchen table and made a list. Every dollar I'd given Derek in the past 4 years. Every charge on my credit card that wasn't mine. The wedding contribution, the furniture, the trips, the debt payments, the restaurant meals, the shopping sprees, the hotel stays. $147,000. That's what I'd given them, and I'd gotten nothing back except mounting disrespect and the privilege of being treated like an ATM with a pulse. The joint savings account had been set up when Derek was 25, fresh out of university. I'd wanted him to have access to emergency funds if something happened to me. There was $160,000 in it, money I'd saved over decades, money that was supposed to be my retirement cushion. I worked part-time now, light nursing shifts 3 days a week, enough to cover my bills and save a bit. That account was my security, and they wanted to drain it for a luxury car. I spent the next few weeks watching them. I didn't say anything about what I'd overheard. I just observed. Derek came by for lunch one Saturday, told me about their life, complained about money stress at work, never once mentioned that Sienna was pressuring him to buy her an $85,000 car. Never once acknowledged the ongoing charges on my credit card, $1,000 here, $1,500 there. On Instagram, Sienna posted constantly. Photos of brunches at expensive restaurants, shopping bags from designer stores, yoga poses in $4 to $100 leggings. And always, she included hashtags about being blessed, grateful, manifesting abundance. 2 weeks before Sienna's birthday, Derek called me. His voice sounded strained. "Hey, Mom, do you have time to talk?" My stomach tightened. "Of course. What's going on?" "It's about Sienna's birthday. I really want to do something special for her. She works so hard, and she deserves to feel appreciated." I waited. "I've been thinking about getting her a car. She's always loved the Audi Q7, and there's a white one at her dad's dealership. He's willing to give me a deal, $80,000 even." "That's very expensive," I said carefully. "I know. But here's the thing, I can make the down payment with my bonus from work." A lie. He didn't get bonuses. "But I need help with some of the fees and paperwork costs. Maybe $15,000? And I was thinking, the joint account. It would just be a loan, obviously. I'd pay you back over time. My son was calling me, lying to my face, trying to manipulate me into funding a luxury car for his entitled wife. The same son I'd raised to value honesty and hard work. "Let me think about it," I told him. "Mom, her birthday is in 2 weeks. I need to know soon." I said I'll think about it, Derek. After we hung up, I sat very still for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and made those calls. To the bank, to the investment firm, to the credit card company. By the end of the day, Derek had no access to my money. None. The joint account was closed, the funds transferred to a new savings account in only my name. The credit card was canceled. I felt lighter than I had in years. I didn't tell him. I wanted to see what would happen. Sienna's birthday fell on a Saturday. Derek had been texting me all week, asking if I'd thought about the loan. I kept my responses vague, still considering it. "Let's talk soon." I could feel his stress mounting with each passing day. On Friday night, he called me, panicked. "Mom, I tried to use the credit card for the down payment and it was declined. Did something happen to it?" "I canceled it," I said calmly. Silence. "What? Why?" "It was supposed to be for emergencies, Derek. $800 dinners aren't emergencies." "Mom, I needed that card. I was going to buy your wife a car you can't afford?" More silence. "I also closed the joint account," I continued. "It's my retirement money, not your slush fund." "You can't do that," his voice rose. "That's our emergency money. What if something happens? Then you'll have to handle it like the adults you claim to be. You're 32 years old, Derek. You make $70,000 a year. That's a good salary. You should be able to live on it. Sienna is going to kill me. I promised her the Audi. Her birthday is tomorrow. Then I suggest you figure out what you can actually afford. Maybe a nice dinner, a thoughtful gift, something within your actual budget. This is unbelievable. You're really going to humiliate me like this." "I'm not humiliating you, Derek. I'm stopping the pattern of enabling you. There's a difference." He hung up on me. I didn't sleep well that night. Part of me wondered if I'd been too harsh. But then I remembered Sienna's voice saying my $600 gift wasn't worth acknowledgement, and Derek's weak voice not defending me, and I knew I'd done the right thing. Saturday afternoon, Derek showed up at my door. He looked terrible, red eyes, rumpled clothes. For a moment I felt a pang of maternal instinct to fix it, to make it better. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He walked to my couch and collapsed onto it, head in his hands. "I couldn't get the car," he said. "I had to tell Sienna this morning that I couldn't afford it." She cried. Then she got angry. Then she called her father, and he told her that if I couldn't provide for her properly, maybe we needed to reconsider our marriage. My chest tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "Did you tell her the truth, that you were planning to buy it with my money?" "I told her you'd changed your mind about the loan." "So you made me the villain." He looked up at me, eyes desperate. What was I supposed to say? That I've been lying to her about our finances? That we've been living off my mom for years? "Yes," I said, "that's exactly what you should say, the truth." She'd leave me. Maybe. Or maybe she'd finally understand that you need to build a life based on what you can actually afford, not on what her parents can afford. Derek stood up abruptly. "You don't understand what it's like. Her parents have so much money. They judge me constantly. I'm never good enough, never successful enough. I was trying to prove I could give her the life she deserves. By lying and using my retirement savings, I was going to pay you back." "Derek." I moved closer to him. "In 4 years, you've taken over $140,000 from me. You haven't paid back a single cent. When exactly was this magical payback going to happen?" His face went white. "That much?" "Yes, that much. Money I worked 3 decades to save. Money I need for my own future." He sank back onto the couch. "I didn't realize it was that much. Because you never thought about it. You just kept taking, and I kept giving, and neither of us questioned whether it was healthy or sustainable." We sat in silence for a long moment. When Derek finally spoke, his voice was small. "What am I supposed to do now?" "You're supposed to sit down with your wife and have an honest conversation about your finances. You make a budget based on your actual income. You cut the expenses you can't afford. You move to a cheaper place if you need to. You build a life that's yours, not one that's borrowed from me or propped up by her parents' expectations. And if she can't handle that," I took a deep breath, "then you need to decide if you want a marriage based on honesty and partnership or one based on keeping up appearances and drowning in debt." He left without saying goodbye. I watched him walk to his car, a leased BMW that cost him $800 a month, and drive away. I didn't hear from him for 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, I questioned myself constantly. Had I been too harsh? Should I have handled it differently? Was I a bad mother for cutting off my only child? But I also felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I wasn't checking my credit card statement with dread. I wasn't fielding phone calls about emergency expenses that weren't really emergencies. I wasn't lying awake, worrying about how I'd make my retirement money last if they kept draining it. On the 16th day, Derek called, "Can we meet for coffee?" We met at a Tim Hortons near my condo, not a fancy cafe in Yorkville, but the regular Tim Hortons where coffee cost $2. Derek looked different, tired, but somehow more solid. "We've been talking," he said. "Sienna and I. Really talking, for the first time in a long time." I waited. I told her everything. The money from you, the credit card charges, the debt. She was angry, really angry. But her dad sat us both down and he paused, stirred his coffee. He told us we were idiots. His word. He said he didn't raise his daughter to be financially dependent on anyone, and I wasn't being a man by lying and borrowing. He offered to help us, and Sienna told him no. She said we needed to figure it out ourselves. "I'm proud of her for that," I said, and I meant it. We gave notice on the condo. We're moving to a smaller place in Etobicoke, $1,500 a month instead of $3,500. Sienna got a full-time job at her dad's dealership. She's going to be a sales consultant. It's a real job with real commission potential. And he looked down. I returned the BMW. I'm driving a used Honda now, paid $6,000 cash. "Those are good changes, Derek." "I'm sorry, Mom." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry for taking advantage of you, for lying, for letting Sienna disrespect you, for being weak. I reached across the table and took his hand. I forgive you, but Derek, you need to understand this can't happen again. I love you, and I'll always be your mother, but I won't be your bank anymore. I know. And I don't want you to be. We're building a budget, a real one. We're tracking our spending. Sienna actually seems happier, less stressed. She was drowning in the pressure of maintaining this image, and she didn't even realize it. Over the next few months, I watched my son and daughter-in-law transform. It wasn't easy for them. They had to tell their friends they couldn't afford certain outings. They had to stop eating at expensive restaurants. Sienna had to take down some of her Instagram posts because they didn't match her new reality, and she said it felt embarrassing at first. But they worked. They saved. They budgeted. 3 months after our coffee meeting, Derek called to tell me they'd saved enough for a small emergency fund, $3,000. He was proud of it in a way he'd never been proud of the designer clothes or fancy dinners I'd funded. 6 months after that, they invited me over to their new apartment. It was small, maybe 600 square feet, but it was clean and cozy. Sienna had decorated it with furniture from IKEA and thrift stores, and she'd actually done a beautiful job. She made dinner herself, nothing fancy, just spaghetti and salad, and we ate at their tiny kitchen table. After dinner, Derek handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000. "It's a start," he said. "We're paying you back. It's going to take years, but we're committed to it." I looked at both of them. Sienna wasn't wearing designer clothes. She had on jeans and a sweater from the Gap, no expensive jewelry, but she looked more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. Derek looked lighter, too, younger somehow. "I'm proud of you both," I said. And I meant it. Sienna reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm sorry for how I treated you," she said. "I was so caught up in competing with my parents, proving something, that I didn't see what I was becoming. You gave me a gift that Christmas, and I acted like it wasn't good enough. But it was good enough. You were good enough. You've always been good enough, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see that." I squeezed her hand, tears in my eyes. That was a year ago. Derek and Sienna are still in that small apartment. They're still driving used cars. They're still working regular jobs and building their savings slowly, but they're happy. Genuinely happy, in a way they never were when they were living beyond their means. I still work part-time at the hospital. I still live in my Toronto condo with the lake view. And my retirement account is growing again, slowly but surely. I don't worry anymore about unexpected charges or desperate phone calls. I sleep well at night. People ask me sometimes if I regret cutting my son off financially. They say I was harsh, that family should help family, and maybe they're right that I could have handled it differently. But I don't regret it. Not for a moment. Because I didn't just teach my son a lesson about money. I taught him about self-respect, about living within your means, about the difference between helping and enabling. I taught him that love doesn't mean unlimited funding, and boundaries don't mean rejection. Most importantly, I taught him and myself that it's never too late to change course. It's never too late to say no, to draw a line, to stop a pattern that's hurting everyone involved. Money can't buy respect. It can't buy genuine relationships, and it certainly can't buy the kind of happiness that comes from building a life on honesty and partnership rather than debt and deception. I'm 64 now. I have enough money saved to retire comfortably in a few years. My son visits regularly, not because he needs something, but because he wants to see me. My daughter-in-law and I have coffee every couple weeks, and we talk about real things, her job, her goals, her fears, not just surface-level pleasantries. Last month, Derek told me they're thinking about buying a small house in a few years. They're saving for a down payment, building their credit, doing it the right way. He asked for my advice, not my money. That's how I know we've come full circle. To anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, whether you're the parent who keeps giving or the adult child who keeps taking, I want you to hear this. Enabling someone isn't loving them. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let them struggle, let them fail, let them figure out how to stand on their own 2 feet. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it feels cruel in the moment. Yes, they might hate you for a while, but if you truly love them, you'll give them the gift of their own strength, their own resilience, their own ability to build a life they can be proud of. That's what real love looks like. Not a credit card with no limit, not a joint account they can drain, not an $85,000 car they didn't earn. Real love is boundaries. Real love is consequences. Real love is saying no when yes would only hurt them in the long run. I learned that lesson the hard way, but I'm grateful I learned it at all, before it was too late for both of us.